Hi everybody, it's me, Steve Riddell. I'm your candidate for Texas House of Representatives in District 92, and I'm here with my friend Scott Shepard, who is the president and CEO of Six Stones. They're a Catalyst of Hope. I want to state for the record right up front that this is not an endorsement of my candidacy by Mr. Shepard. I'm just here to talk to him about what he's accomplished with Six Stones and kind of learn some more about the good that they do for their community. So take it from there, Scott. Tell me, what was the seed for Six Stones? How did this whole idea get started? Where did it come from?
Well, really, it started back when I was actually on staff at First Baptist Church Euless. And so there was just a series of events that we were involved in. One specifically at that time was Gary McCamey, city manager at Euless. And we went, like a lot of churches are doing today, and we just asked the question, is there something we could do together? And unfortunately, I think we had a little more of an agenda than what we needed to. But when we just selflessly asked that question, what do you need help with? That's when Gary, the wheels, as he would tell you, really began to turn. I think they had some projects that the city really needed help with. They didn't know how to bridge the gap, and it opened the door for collaboration between that faith community and the local government. What he said to us was, if we had some money to do some things, but you had volunteers that could engage with us, what could we do? And so that's really where it started.
Right. So did it start with CPR? Was that the first?
Well, they were in process in the city of Euless, actually creating Euless revitalization, and not community-powered revitalization. And so they were in motion trying to put these pieces together, and there's a few pieces missing. That was that army of people. How could you mobilize an army of people to make a difference? Because it's something hard for a city to do.
Right.
Which the long play on that is we've learned that everybody kind of gets a piece of this and has a part in it. It's amazing what gets done, but if there's a hole or a gap, it shuts it down.
Yeah.
What you're referring to when you say CPR, community powered revitalization, came around 2010 when Gary McCamey then went to the city of Bedford and the city of Hurst and said, we have something really good going on here.
Right.
And we did have a nonprofit at that point, so Six Stones. But he invited those other cities to collaborate again. So it went to a whole nother level on building a coalition or collaboration.
I think that's one of the things that I love the most about this community, especially the HEB, is that everybody works together. There's none of the, wrangling that you sometimes get within the community of like, oh, this is my stuff, you can't have it.
Absolutely.
So those kinds of partnerships that I love. So what are some of the programs? Can you walk us through, like, for instance, for those of our viewers who aren't familiar with CPR, what does CPR do?
Sure. CPR is community powered revitalization. It's really a solution where local municipalities or cities can help those that are struggling with code violations, usually veterans, single moms, widows, that type of situation. And as you well know, most cities have no solution for code violations other than tickets.
Yeah.
And so we found a solution through that process, bringing all those entities together. There is some local funding at the municipality, but then, as you mentioned, corporations and faith and all those sectors can actually engage with volunteers, with resources, in-kind donations. It just kind of becomes a beautiful mix. And so that's what really generated for us what we learned over the course of time, and it's just was at least the way it happened for us. Once we began to work with the city, the next phone call is your school district.
Yeah.
Because they need help, and it's it's the same residents in essence, and so it's cool to see how those two entities have really become the driving force in the work we do. It's not necessarily what do we do; it's what do we do to serve, and so. Community powered revitalization was what the city asked for. Operation Back to School was what, at that time, Dr. Buinger said, this is where we need the tools and resources for kids to be successful in school. Christmas, Night of Hope for us, sounds benevolent and fun, but we're really trying to keep mom from making a really bad decision because she wants her child to have the same thing every other child is going to have,
right.
Which then we're not going to pay the water bill or the light bill or the rent, and then it just becomes an economic hardship.
How do you make those choices when you have a child that wants to see Santa?
That's right.
Yeah.
And so those are really kind of the flagships, but we've learned over the course of time, when you really start this process, you create this army of volunteers and people from the sectors, you can channel it in a lot of different directions. We just finished a program, an intramural soccer league, Liga HEB, because the district said we've got these marginal kids where they're at, they can't qualify to play the UIL sports, and because there's nothing to keep them in school, they're going to drop out. So we found a way around, in essence, not in a bad way, but came up with a creative solution to invest in the lives of kids, but also help a district be more successful.
So they get the exercise, they get community involvement, they get a sport that they can be proud of. It makes it builds community once again. Okay, that's terrific. Why do you think that you've been successful in building this model? What has been the secret to your success? Is it that you're listening to the community and taking back from them what they need instead of imposing?
I would say totally. When we began this, and as I said before I was on staff, John Metter came to me and said, I need you to go build a coalition of churches, businesses, nonprofits, and other entities to meet the needs of the community. And so I was just dumb enough to just go do it, not knowing. We have a motto, it's amazing what you can do, you don't know you shouldn't have done it.
Right.
But we just dove in, and that's what we began to do, is just to build relationships and coalitions. And so I think that's a little bit of selflessness in it. I wasn't worried about whose brand or logo.
Right.
And it was kind of fun to see the relationships start to build and the power in that. And then the other is just serving people, not serving us or our organization or our entity, but just generally serving the community.
And it's amazing what you can accomplish when you give people that good feeling, because it feels good to do good.
Right.
So when people get involved, and I've seen it at the Six Stones trainings that I've been to, you guys make it super fun when you're presenting the concept of here's how Night of Hope is going to work, or here's what we do for CPR. You can see the looks on the people's faces, at least when I'm looking around.
Right.
I see the other people looking up just like, I am so happy to be a part of this. So I think that's a big part of it too. How do you measure how successful your organization has been? How can you tell, other than anecdotally? I'm sure you see lots of smiles, but numerically speaking, how do you know you've made a difference?
Well, a lot of times it comes down to the individual story even. When you get the story from a homeowner or a mom that's had their child blessed with school supplies, or a family comes and there's nothing in the cupboard and they're hungry, I mean, that's just golden, right? But at the same time, we've taken a little different approach. And Steve, I got to tell you, it's kind of hard when you get into true nonprofit and with your peers, because they look at you and go, well, you're putting Band-Aids on things, you're really not alleviating poverty.
Right.
Well, my goal was to serve my community. And when a city manager or a superintendent who knows exactly what they need tells you this is what we need, and you can execute on that, I think that's success.
Yeah.
Of course, we'd love to move the entire community out of poverty, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Right.
And I don't know what anyone's faith was that's watching this, but Jesus said you're always going to have a poor.
Right.
But how do we make a difference? How do we change that? And then the other side of it is, Steve, I think the thing that we get the most joy out of, sure, we want to bless the family and all of that, but those smiles you talked about, the smiles on a volunteer's face that then says, well, what else can I do? And then not even coming and doing something additional with Six Stones. We've seen people go to take on other initiatives or change something in their own church or their business, and I got to tell you, it's fun to even watch 3 cities in a school district that have said, we coexisted and we knew each other, but now we collaborate and we talk and we plan and we strategize because of what you did to help us build those relationships.
Yeah. When you build those networks, it expands, right? Because people enjoy working together. It's what we were designed to do as human beings. We're designed to form teams and accomplish things.
That's right.
It's great to see that expand outside
Absolutely.
the group, obviously. Do you have a story of an impact that you had, like a most significant experience that you've had while leading this organization in the life of the person that you helped?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I could go down to individuals. I mean, crazy things, Steve. I remember when we first started even, we had a mom come in here one night and she was hungry. She had a baby, a newborn, and she told our folks, I need a baby bed. Well, we didn't have one. And we put the word out. We prayed about it. The next morning, literally, there was a baby bed laying up against the building outside. And we were able, what was the phone number on that mom? Let's call her, because that baby was sleeping on the floor in a rented motel room.
Just showed up.
It just showed up. And so those are the simple things. And then too, like I said just a second ago, when you have, and I was not quoting myself, I was quoting a city councilman here in our community that said, literally, he said, we might share a backhoe, we might work across interlocal agreements with fire departments, but what you did was you created a network that we planned and we talk and we collaborate. So I mean, from the smallest to the largest, those are the stories, and there's tons of them.
Absolutely. My goal as a state representative would be, because I really admire what you built here, how do we expand that? How could I take something like the model that you built here in the Hurst, Euless, Bedford area and expand it to other communities within the state? So what would I need to do to begin to build that?
Well, we would appreciate that, because it's about information communication. And so we have felt for some time, matter of fact, even community power revitalization is incredibly unique. We can't find anybody in our state, let alone any other state, that is doing what we're doing the way we do in an agreement with a municipality. We're using Texas law, local municipalities, to create this model. And so we begin writing the playbooks and the legal docs and all those things we've experienced, and we're looking to actually help replicate that in other communities.
Oh, wow.
I'm not trying to create 6 stones in a box necessarily, or 6 stones across America, but we are trying to say, come and see. I think you've seen this in some of our events. We invite folks to come what we call backstage all the time.
Mayors from other cities.
Absolutely. Church leaders, business leaders, elected officials, just come and see what is happening in this incredible community. And if we can help replicate, coach, we're doing that. And so really being maybe a voice in Austin would be phenomenal.
Great.
To share the good work and then see what we can do to replicate.
Yeah, absolutely. Have there been any hurdles, at least early on? Because you guys are pretty successful right now. Were there any hurdles early on that would have been good to have some help getting over?
Gosh, well, when you start doing nonprofit work, right, it's typically all by donation and funding. That's really hard. But a lot of that goes back to the relationships and communication. As you build those intertwined relationships between the sectors of public, private, and social, it begins to happen. But really, it's about who you know and what you know. I got to tell you, you're running for House 92. I got to tell you, one story was phenomenal. Actually, at that time, Todd Smith picked up the phone and called Kelly Rod, who's now on our board, by the way. Kelly was governmental affairs and community relations for TXU across the state of Texas. He used his influence to be able to say, I don't know what you can do, but here's a great organization doing some work. Call him. And literally, she called me on a cold Friday night before we did our very first Night of Hope and said, this is who I am. This is what we'd love to do to help you do that. What else can we help you with?
Wow.
And she began to back to relationships and contacts, and so it just has grown from there.
Scott, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today, and especially thank you for all the good works that you and your team have done for the community.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it, and let's do more.
I like it.